UFC 300 is this weekend. I'm going to give you a full card prediction and breakdown of all 13 fights on this card, starting with Deiveson Figueiredo versus Cody Garbrandt. I have done individual predictions. I guess I probably should have said this before introducing the early prelim fight, but I have done individual predictions for each of the lower cards. I haven't done any of the title fight cards. I think the only other one that I haven't done is probably Jessica Andrade and Marina Rodriguez, but I've done individual videos on all of those. If you want to check them out, you can go ahead and do it. But for this fight, I am going to go with Deiveson Figueiredo. I'm going to stick with it. I think I made this video like a couple weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'm sticking with Deiveson Figueiredo, but I will say if this fight goes beyond like the first half, past the first round, I'm going to be leaning more Cody Garbrandt, and this is why. Deiveson Figueiredo in his last fight fought Rob Font, who I think is a very good striker. Like, you saw what he did to Yanez. I thought that was pretty impressive. He just doesn't really have a chin, really technical. I believe he did beat Cody Garbrandt. He wasn't able to finish Cody Garbrandt, but Deiveson Figueiredo looked pretty good early on, but my only worry is that he did end up wrestling. Of course, he has more weight put on him. He's at 135, but he's naturally like a bigger dude. He can't rely on his wrestling against Cody Garbrandt here, and he does slow down, or at least he slowed down in his last fight a little bit. I don't like that for Deiveson Figueiredo here. However, his counters look really nice. He throws some really nice shots down the middle, down the pipe, super fast and powerful, and I think he's going to be able to catch a Cody Garbrandt who kind of just crashes in and just unloads those combos and when he drives forward and things like that. So I think a nice little counter from Deiveson Figueiredo here will catch Cody Garbrandt. I think he'll get the finish in the first round. However, as this fight goes on, Cody Garbrandt will definitely be looking a lot better. If he gets past that first round, maybe even like half of the second, Deiveson Figueiredo won't be able to rely on his wrestling. I can see Cody Garbrandt kind of getting there first, and that's the thing with Cody Garbrandt. A lot of his success is him getting there first, and maybe some of the hooks that'll land, like a right hook, as Deiveson Figueiredo is trying to throw something as well. Maybe he lands first and just KOs Figueiredo, because Figueiredo had some chin issues at flyweight, but he just had a really crazy cut there. So you don't really know too much for bantamweight what the chin will look like for Figueiredo, but Cody Garbrandt's thing is, I'm going to hit you first and you're going to go down. Like, the defense is better. However, it's not like perfect. You saw it in the Kelleher fight. I don't know if he just didn't respect Kelleher at all on the feet. However, he landed first and hurt Kelleher pretty badly, but Deiveson Figueiredo, I think he's going to end up catching Cody Garbrandt pretty early in this fight. I'm going to say late first round TKO. But again, if he gets past the first round, if you're looking at betting-wise, I don't know the exact odds right now. Minus 300 favorite for Deiveson Figueiredo. Maybe the underdog will shoot up after the first round if Deiveson Figueiredo actually lands some really good shots on Cody Garbrandt. But I'll be looking at that line after the first round, because I think Cody Garbrandt could win a decision. I think that could definitely happen, winning 2 and 3. Or he could eventually get the TKO in the later round. So I'll be watching that live betting wise. This is a really nice matchup. I'm not sure. Like, it's one of those closer matchups I kind of want to see. People are saying Figueiredo 80%. Cody Garbrandt definitely has a pretty solid chance of winning this. So I'm going to go Figueiredo late first round TKO. Up the card, we have Bobby Green versus Jim Miller. Another very interesting fight. However, I'm going to stick with Jim Miller, of course. I think he's just going to tear up the leg of Bobby Green. And I'm going to be honest, Bobby Green has looked like absolute shit in his last few fights and has took insane amount of damage in his last fight against Jalin Turner. Like, brutal damage. The ref wanted to see him dead out there. Let's be real. But Bobby Green in his last fight against Jalin Turner, brutally KO'd. Was out cold for a while he was still getting punched. So it was extremely brutal KO. Against Grant Dawson, it was a very early KO, so I mean, it is what it is. Like, he dropped him with the jab, and it was pretty much over, or whatever it was. Like it was some straight shot, but the fight did not last very long at all, so we didn't really get to see much there. But Tony Ferguson, he got hurt very badly. I can't remember if Tony Ferguson dropped him or not in that first round, but he dropped Bobby Green or hurt him very badly, and Bobby Green eye poked him, and then he ended up submitting Tony Ferguson. But again, Bobby Green has just not looked too great. Jared Gordon, he was losing that fight, it looked very sloppy there. A guy like Drew Dober was able to find the chin of Bobby Green. I think Jim Miller can go forward, chop at the legs. And the thing is, Bobby Green in the first round, I think he's going to look super technical, but I think as this fight goes on, you'll see him start to get sloppy. Jim Miller will start to press him against the fence, start to drive on him. Bobby Green will be forced to go on the outside, especially with a chopped up leg. The movement's just not going to be there for him. His hands are going to be too low, and I think Jim Miller is going to catch him as he's circling out with the hook and end up KOing Bobby Green. I think it's going to be more TKO. Maybe he does go out cold. That damage he took against Jalin Turner was kind of crazy. But I'm going to go second round KO for Jim Miller in this fight. I think he gets a pretty nice KO here. Jim Miller kind of wants it as well. I mean, if we're looking at motivation going into this fight, Bobby Green, I feel like it's more money for him. I know Jim Miller is, 40 years old, but I think he really wants to win on this card. He's been asking for that 300 card for a very long time on 100, 200, and 300 now. So I'm going to go Jim Miller here by finish in the second round by KO. Of the card, we have Jessica Andrade versus Marina Rodriguez. I'm going to go with Marina Rodriguez here. Jessica Andrade, I will say at a time, she's pretty decently entertaining. Like at this point, it just seems like it's Jessica Andrade. Like she'll charge at you with a bunch of hooks, has a lot of power in her hand, and it's nice to see her against like the lower ranked fighters that aren't as talented and see her KO them and do the damage. However, it's just when you get that striker who's a lot more technical, who can just outbox Andrade and just not get hit. I mean, it sounds easier said than done, but I think Marina Rodriguez is kind of like that next step on the feet that Andrade won't be able to do well against. I mean, we saw Yan Xiaonan, who's got power, decently technical on the feet, and beat up Andrade pretty badly, TKO'd or KO'd her, and Andrade was just charging forward with the hooks. So she couldn't really do much there. I'm going Marina Rodriguez here. Even Marina Rodriguez beat Yan Xiaonan. It was a pretty close fight. That was, 2 years ago, and people were behind Rodriguez a lot there. Amanda Lemos lost that one by TKO. That one was kind of a really weird stoppage. I think it was Herzog on that fight, right? I think that's just a weird thing I remembered. But it was a pretty weird stoppage. She was doing pretty good there. I'm surprised they actually did stop it like that. But then lost to Brundage Jandiroba by decision. So you never really know with this division, but I think she's going to be a lot more technical on the feet. And is just going to be able to stop Andrade here. It's not Mackenzie Dern. It's not Lauren Murphy on the feet. I'm going Marina Rodriguez, probably by decision. Of the card, we have Jalin Turner versus Renato Moicano. I'm going with Jalin Turner still. I can see a way where Renato Moicano wins this. And if you want to say Mateus Garbrandt got him down, but Mateus Garbrandt doesn't really have that much to his game grappling-wise. Like, he's a very good wrestler. He holds those positions pretty well, but he doesn't have that game that Moicano does where he can submit someone on the ground. Yes, you can say that, but I think Mateus Garbrandt's takedown abilities, just the chain wrestling's probably say is a lot better than Moicano's. Like, Moicano, you can take a guy down. Like, the way you took down Drew Dober, I thought it was definitely going to be a lot tougher because Drew Dober's a very stocky dude, very heavy, and he's coming off an injury. So I was actually surprised he was able to take him down. He took a lot of shots early on, and he got hurt very badly. And I do think Jalin Turner, who's a long fighter, who isn't fighting a Mateus Garbrandt, who's going to chain wrestle and push that pace on you, I think he's going to do a lot better against Renato Moicano. He is, 28 years of age, so he's still pretty young, almost 29, but he has that range, he has that speed, he has that power. If Renato Moicano goes out there immediately and tries to wrestle and grapple, I think that will probably be beneficial for him. However, Jalin Turner, again, just super fast, a lot of power in his hands. I think he's going to beat up Moicano pretty badly, and I think we're looking at maybe a TKO here in the second round. I'm rooting for Moicano. This is a pretty big fight for him on the UFC 300 card. I'm a pretty big fan, but I don't know. I don't like it for him. It maybe does I kind of had this idea where because of this fight, he's going to miss out on the Paddy Pimblett fight. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. And in all honesty, I think he's like a ranked above 10 on the UFC rankings. I don't have the rankings up right now for me, but it kind of would make sense if he's like went towards the outside of the rankings, so you can kind of justify like a lower ranked opponent for Paddy Pimblett, so he's not jumping a bunch of guys, and Moicano's not jumping all the way outside the rankings to fight. So I guess that kind of makes sense there, but I know Jalin Turner's takedown defense isn't great. You saw that against the Mateus Garbrandt fight, and it was on short notice. Like, we know the kind of fighter that Mateus Garbrandt, like, his name's Gamer, like he's always ready, that kind of thing. And it was a short notice fight, so maybe Jalin Turner wasn't necessarily ready for that, and Garbrandt doesn't really offer much along with his takedown. So in another way, Jalin Turner can get taken down, and I can see him possibly getting submitted by Moicano. However, Jalin Turner is just way too good. He's a bigger guy at lightweight, very long, very rangy, very fast on the feet. I think he's going to beat up Moicano very badly, and I think we're looking at a second round TKO, if not a late first round TKO. So I'm sticking with Jalin Turner here. Probably a decent underdog, plus 185 for Renato Moicano if you're looking at that. However, I'm sticking with Jalin Turner here. I think he's going to win by TKO. Just a little bit too much for Moicano going into this fight. So let's up the card. We have Sodiq Yusuff versus Diego Lopes. I'm going with Diego Lopes. I'm sticking with him in this fight. The thing with this one is Diego Lopes has looked pretty decent on the feet. I will say that. I mean, that's not his game. His game is a grappling game. Like, you see him coach all these guys. A lot of the Mexican fighters, I will say, he's been coaching quite a bit. You've been seeing him in his corner during the UFC fight, so he's making probably some decent money on the side outside of his fighting. But he made that debut against Movsar Evloev, and he landed some pretty good shots. Like, after that, I don't know how much we're going to be able to take from the Pat Sabatini fight, who Pat Sabatini just doesn't really have a chin. Gavin Tucker is able to get the submission pretty quickly. However, the Movsar Evloev fight came in on short notice, landed some really good shots on Evloev on his back foot. And then once it got to the ground, even a pretty good grappler and wrestler in Movsar Evloev was having a very tough time on the ground with him. And maybe that's not the case with Sodiq Yusuff. Maybe he knows not to go to the ground. However, I do think Diego Lopes will get hit at some point, and I think he will drop. I think I even said this in my other video. It's kind of the Oliveira thing, where if he gets dropped, he's not going to get scared to stay on his back and have someone go into his guard, because his grappling is just that much better than the other guys. So I can see him getting dropped and Sodiq Yusuff just running straight into the guard and just running in straight into the triangle. I can also see him getting like a rear naked choke if he eventually does take down Sodiq Yusuff. However, I don't think it'll be that big of a mismatch on the feet. I don't see anything really that impresses me too much with Sodiq Yusuff. Like, he impresses me at certain points, and then I see fights where I'm like, oh, like, what are we doing here? I know he beat Alex Caceres, but didn't look too great. Edson Barboza, he actually took quite a bit of damage. Like, it was pretty much a war there 6 months ago. I don't know. I like Diego Lopes in this fight. I like his finishing ability. I can see this fight end up going to the ground, and I think he does eventually submit Sodiq Yusuff, probably late first, early second, I think is what we're looking at for submission for Diego Lopes. I think he'll hang in there on the feet. He's going to be off his back foot. He's going to land some good hooks coming in against Sodiq Yusuff like he did against Movsar Evloev. I think he ends up getting the submission. I'm going to say triangle, late first, second round submission here. Up the card, we have Holly Holm versus Kayla Harrison. I'm going Kayla Harrison. Holly Holm, although she is, I think it's a national champion kickboxer, and Kayla Harrison's an Olympic gold medalist at judo. Holly Holm's fighting style at this point in her career goes straight into what Harrison is going to be trying to do to her, and I think she's going to be a lot better at it. I'm just going to be honest. Holly Holm's kickboxing hasn't looked, I mean, she hasn't really even used it. It's not about whether it looks bad or not. Like, she doesn't use it. She goes into the clinch. She's going to try and take you down. She tries to mix in her offense. And you saw what happened against Mayra Bueno Silva. Like, she ran straight into a submission. If the fight goes into the clinch, Kayla Harrison's just going to toss her, like judo thrower. Like, all those things that she learns in judo, she's going to out-wrestle her. This is probably going to go to a decision. Maybe she has some crazy power in her hands when she goes down to 135 that we don't know about. So, I mean, the weight cut will definitely be a factor coming into this one. Maybe Holly Holm KOs her. Just see what the chin looks like on Harrison in this fight. But she's going to be a lot stronger. Holly Holm loves to go for takedowns, loves to mix in her game, and you just don't really see her stick to her stand-up these days. So I think this fight's going to end up in the clinch because Holly Holm's is going to freak out a little bit. Not that she freaks out, but, like, this fight's going to end up in the clinch at some point. Harrison's just going to be too strong. She's going to toss her and control her on the ground to a decision is what I'm going to say. I think it's going to be, I won't say it's going to be boring because I think Harrison will probably do some stuff on the ground. However, I think she'll just very clearly out-wrestle and grapple Holly Holm in this fight. And she's a minus 480 favorite. I think that's a little crazy. We don't know what the chin on Harrison will look like at 135. So maybe there's that coming into this fight. But I'm going Kayla Harrison. I don't think she submits her, but I think she does win by decision. Up the card, we have Calvin Kattar versus Aljamain Sterling. I am going to go with Aljamain Sterling in this fight. Calvin Kattar coming off a pretty rough knee injury. He's been out for, a year and a half. I don't like that for him. He does have some really good takedown defense. I think it's what I'm remembering from my last video, 91.3% takedown defense percentage, which is pretty good. But again, he's 36 now, just turned 36, year and a half off after a pretty brutal knee injury. The thing with Aljamain Sterling is he's just very weird on the feet, and Calvin Kattar is strictly like a boxer. So he's going to have to get into that punching range with Aljamain Sterling when Aljamain Sterling is doing the, I want to run around a circle, kick you, run around in a circle, go for a takedown, take your back, be a true backpack on him. I think that's just what this fight's going to end up being. It's going to be Aljamain Sterling's game. He's going to be playing that I'm going to go on my knees game, and you can't kick me, you can't hit me at, or he can hit him with his hands or whatever, but you can't knee me or anything. It's just going to be a very frustrating fight for Calvin Kattar is what I'm going to think, with a pretty rough knee injury coming off. The movement I think will probably be a little bit limited for him. He's going to probably be a little bit rusty, 36. He's a little bit older. Aljamain Sterling is just going to be circling around, landing the kick, just being super awkward, making it very tough for Calvin Kattar. And when Calvin Kattar tries to go in there to stop him and cut him off, he's going to be giving up his hips. Sterling's going to be going for a takedown. We know Sterling's a pretty big guy, so this move up in weight, it probably isn't going to detriment him, or at least his game, too much. He's probably going to be a little bit healthier, be a little bit better on fight day. I think he's probably going to be gaining a little bit of weight as well. When was the last time he fought? 7 months ago. So he's probably bulked up a little bit going into this fight. Weight cut's probably going to be a little bit nicer. I don't know what his chin will necessarily look like, because I don't know how crazy, like we saw how crazy the weight cut was for Sterling, but the impact on the chin we don't necessarily know. But I think this is just going to be a very frustrating fight for Kattar, coming back after a year and a half off. I don't like it for him. I don't think he submits Calvin Kattar in this fight, but I think it does go to a decision. Just being super annoying. Maybe 29-28 decision. Maybe Kattar hurts him early. But I think, if anything, it'll probably be 30-27. So I'm going Aljamain Sterling by decision in this one. Up the card, we have Jiri Prochazka versus Aleksandar Rakic. I'm going with Jiri Prochazka here. Again, almost 2 years off for Aleksandar Rakic. I know he's been training pretty hard. Like, I see his training videos on Instagram. Like, he's been training pretty hard for a while now. I think he's been just trying to get back into shape, back into fighting correctly, because, again, his knee got absolutely torn up versus Jan Blachowicz, and he does have some crazy calf. The thing to look at in this fight is the leg kicks for Rakic. Like, his leg kicks are absolutely brutal. If you have seen any, I think there's like a video compilation of his leg kicks on YouTube. Like, they're absolutely insane. I think he's probably going to be able to chew up Jiri Prochazka's leg. However, the thing with Jiri is that maybe I'm kind of betting on the fact that Jiri will just find his way to win this one, or to get the finish. But Jiri, weirdly enough, although his takedown defense is not great, like, it works. He just finds his way up at certain points, but he just, even if he's taken down, he just finds ways to get up and get the finish. It's just his very weird style with his hands down. Maybe that works for Rakic here. Maybe he hurts Jiri Prochazka very badly, but it's not anything different than what Yuri's kind of used to. Got hurt versus Pereira. The fight was kind of stopped a little early, but it is what it is. Glover Teixeira got hurt versus him. Versus Dominic Reyes, he got hurt, is what he said. Ozdemir, he got hurt and ended up getting the finish. Maybe he gets hurt early against Rakic, gets taken down, finds his way up, and finishes Rakic. Because, again, 2 years off for Rakic. He's been training pretty hard. However, I do think he's going to look a little bit rusty. Will he trust the leg kicks as much with the hurt knee, with the screwed up? I think it was a torn ACL. I don't want to jump the ship there, but I think it is a torn ACL. Jiri Prochazka has definitely been more active. We were kind of worried about what his shoulder would look like coming off of a year and 5 months off. That's what we were worried about, but we're not going to talk about Rakic's knee just being screwed up for 2 years. It wasn't screwed up for 2 years, but him taking time, 2 years off, to come back for this fight. He looked pretty good against Pereira. Like, he's landing some good shots against Pereira, but again, you just saw, like, just based on looking at Alex Pereira just being a super good striker and kickboxer, you look at Jiri Prochazka with the super weird style and him jumping around and ducking and landing punches. It's just very awkward. I think Jiri Prochazka, even if he gets taken down, I think he finds a way to get the finish against Aleksandar Rakic in this fight, and I do think he eventually gets the finish in like the second or third round is what I'll say. So I think he gets taken down, gets hurt early on, but I think he eventually rallies back. I won't say like a spinning elbow or anything like that, but I think he eventually catches Rakic, lands some really good shots on the ground, and ends up winning by TKO. So I'm going to go Jiri Prochazka by TKO here. Really, I think most of his wins as well have been by finish, so I don't see this fight going to decision. It definitely could go to a decision like 29-28. However, I do think if it probably does go to a decision, it'll probably lead towards Rakic. But there's definitely a possibility where it could be a decision one for Prochazka. But I'm going Jiri Prochazka by TKO in this fight. I'm going to say second round TKO. If not, Yeah, second round TKO. I'm not going to go third round TKO, but second round TKO for your Prochazka. Up the card, we have Bo Nickal versus Cody Brundage. I'm going with Bo Nickal here. There's not too much to say. Cody Brundage is not very good. He really shouldn't even be fighting Bo Nickal on a 300 card. Let's be really, this should probably be like a level up for Bo Nickal if he's fighting on 300. Like, it would have been nice to get a fight, 4 months after his last fight against Val Woodburn. Let's be real. Val Woodburn on short notice, who's a stocky power guy with decent wrestling, is probably way more dangerous than Cody Brundage will probably ever be. I'm just going to be honest. Like, that was a way more dangerous matchup for Bo Nickal. You know, ended up getting the KO anyways. Cody Brundage lost to Sodiq Dumas. Let's be real here. Lost to Rodolfo Vieira, which isn't a horrible loss. Mikhail isn't a bad loss either, but won against Jacob Malkoun by getting back of the head shotted, and then won against Zach Reese by a slam KO, which was pretty early in the fight. Zach Reese is decent, but I don't know. Bo Nickal is just way better than Cody Brundage is what I'll say. I'll say KO win for Bo Nickal. I don't think he even tries to wrestle. Cody Brundage isn't that big of a threat in this fight. He can probably do whatever he wants. Again, like I said in my prediction video, he can just experiment in this one. Maybe do like some crazy stuff like a wheel kick or something just to have fun, I guess. I don't know. Make things interesting maybe, or he just ragdolls him or just runs right through him. I think this is just a first round finish for Bo Nickal. Either he wants to KO him or submit him is how he wants to. Again, like, the skill level, the skill gap is just pretty big here, and I just think whatever Bo Nickal wants to do is what he'll do in this first round. So first round finish for Bo Nickal. I don't know if he's going to try to go for a submission or a KO, but first round finish for Bo Nickal. Up the card, we have Charles Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan. I'm going with Charles Oliveira here, and this is a very close fight. I'll probably say 60-40, 55-45. I'm going with Charles Oliveira here. The thing with Arman Tsarukyan is, or at least when approaching this matchup, is what I think is, where does Arman Tsarukyan have a chance to beat Oliveira? One, on the feet. He can catch Oliveira here. However, in my mind, I'm like, Charles Oliveira's last fight against Islam Makhachev a year and a half ago was the last time he took any significant damage. Looked really good against Beneil Dariush, although I'll talk about what happened in that fight early and the problems that Charles has been going on here. But just looking at Charles Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan, the grappling, I don't think Tsarukyan's going to be able to submit Charles Oliveira. I don't think he's going to be able to TKO Oliveira on the ground, or even just like hold him down on the ground. If someone was going to do that, it would have been Beneil Dariush, who has extremely good grappling. But I don't think Arman Tsarukyan has that grappling game. He's strong, and maybe he'll be able to get like that arm, like an arm triangle on Charles Oliveira here. And that's the thing with a guy like Oliveira. He was only really able to get submitted by Islam Makhachev by an arm triangle. There wasn't going to be anything technical that Makhachev was going to be able to do here. And it was more of Charles Oliveira getting rocked and getting submitted right on him, just out muscling Oliveira on the ground. I don't think Tsarukyan's going to do that here. I don't think Tsarukyan's going to be able to knock him down. He is really good like his boxing, his stand-up has looked really good recently, Tsarukyan, and you can definitely tell he's been evolving it a little bit. Knocked Beneil Dariush straight out cold. Oliveira, I guess you could say, head kicked Beneil and followed up shots, or he took his chin. I don't know. Beneil never really had a crazy chin anyways, but Charles Oliveira going to be way better on the feet, in my opinion. He's going to be a lot more explosive. He has a lot more of a wild style, which I think will eventually catch Arman Tsarukyan on the feet. I think just due to that, I think there's way more openings for Arman Tsarukyan's defense. You saw what happened against Joaquim Silva on short notice. Joaquim Silva was able to rock him pretty badly. I think Oliveira's just going to go out there with forward pressure and catch Oliveira and catch Tsarukyan, whether it's a kick or a left hook or something like that. I think he's going to be able to catch Tsarukyan. And even if it goes to the ground, whether Tsarukyan just panic shoots or not, I think Oliveira has stuff for him on the ground. And the weird part about Oliveira's game recently, and kind of frustrating to see, I just don't understand it. Islam Makhachev in that fight, he was looking for takedowns from the clinch, even though Islam Makhachev is a really good judo guy. He was looking for takedowns in the clinch against Beneil Dariush almost immediately. Beneil literally just pushed off the fence and was able to get right into his guard when Oliveira was trying to drag him to the ground. And so I don't understand what Oliveira was trying to get at there. Maybe he likes fighting from his guard. Maybe he takes a little bit less damage to what he thinks. So maybe that will happen in this fight. Arman Tsarukyan will just play the guard game early on. Charles Oliveira will get out of it because he's trying to wrestle for some reason, or at least try to take Arman Tsarukyan down early. But I just think there's more chances for Charles Oliveira to catch Arman Tsarukyan on feet than there is for Tsarukyan. Oliveira hasn't taken significant damage in a year and a half. 34 years of age as well, 34 and a half years of age. So he hasn't hit that 35 mark, even though I think it is a little bit overdone. I think lightweights, I will say like the lower divisions, I think it matters more. I guess it involves welterweights as well. So and maybe it's the case for them. But it seems like when you see the age really take effect is featherweight, bantamweight, and probably flyweight. Because bantamweight, you see guys at like 33, 34, they're like out of it. They start losing a lot more at the top of their game. So I see him more with the lower weight classes. So I think he'll be fine at 35 or at 34 and a half at lightweight. I don't think he's fallen off a cliff. Arman Tsarukyan's still very young. He still has a lot of time to evolve and look a lot better on the feet. I just don't think it's his time now. I think Oliveira is just going to be a lot better on the feet, a lot more explosive. Forward pressure is going to get to Arman Tsarukyan in a pretty big moment on the UFC 300 card. Pretty big crowd. I think Oliveira wins by TKO in the late first round. I think he hurts Tsarukyan very badly. Coming out the gate, he probably just goes into the clinch again and looks to take him down like he's been doing. I just don't see Tsarukyan just overpowering Oliveira and submitting him with like an arm try. Like, because I feel like you have to use a choke that involves like just out muscling your opponent, just getting through his guard, just not care, like chatting his way through the guard and just submitting him that way. I just don't think that's going to happen for Arman Tsarukyan here. He does look pretty strong, but I don't think he's that strong. I think Charles Oliveira will offer a lot of stuff on the feet for him. Like you saw against Beneil Dariush, who's a very good grappler. He was saying a lot of the stuff that Charles Oliveira was running on him with. I don't know too much about like what Oliveira was doing. I don't know what you necessarily call it, but it was just a lot of stuff he was throwing at Beneil where he's like tying up the leg and just so he can get up. It was just super technical stuff, and I don't think Arman Tsarukyan is a better grappler than Beneil Dariush. So I think in many ways Charles Oliveira can win this fight. I don't see him submitting Tsarukyan in this fight. I will say Tsarukyan I think has good takedown defense, really good takedown defense. I just don't think Oliveira is just going to look for it. And I do think he can defend some of the submissions. I don't think Oliveira is going to submit him unless he rocks him very badly and maybe hops on the back and submits him. I can see that happening, but I think Oliveira wins by TKO here. I think he hurts Tsarukyan, and I think he lands some follow-up shots and puts Tsarukyan down. So I'm going to go late first round, TKO for Charles Oliveira. Up the card, we have Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway for the BMF belt. This fight's going to be absolutely crazy. However, I'm going to go with Justin Gaethje here. I see a lot more people are taking Max Holloway. However, what I will say is Max Holloway's game, like people will talk about this a little bit more. Max Holloway has changed his game up a little bit. I don't know if it was the damage he's been taking a lot. Like after the Volkanovski fight, the third Volkanovski fight, it looked like he changed his game a little bit more. He's more worried about movement, more on the defense. He's trying to stay out of the way of those big shots because Alexander Volkanovski put on an absolute master class in their last fight. But he's been using more of the distance. He's been using the movement a little bit more to stay out of these bigger shots, and you've seen a little bit less output. Moving up to lightweight here, I don't think the cardio is going to fall off for Max Holloway. I think the chin is going to be tested here for Justin Gaethje, or not for Justin Gaethje. Like, I don't think Justin Gaethje's chin is going to get tested. Well, he's probably going to get rocked at certain moments in this fight, but I think Holloway's chin is definitely going to get tested here. And what I will say about just looking at their fights, I started watching the Arnold Allen fight because I thought Justin Gaethje has the power. I won't say they fight very similarly because Arnold Allen does like a lot of moving, and he's a very athletic dude. He fights super athletic, and he's a very strong guy. And when I noticed, of course, Arnold Allen is a southpaw, so it didn't really help me in that fight. But I watched the Korean Zombie fight. Max is still very hittable. his head kind of just stays on the center line. He just moves back more. And the thing that I noticed with Justin Gaethje is he follows up with his combos. Like, he'll throw down the middle, but he'll drive forward. He'll go straight at you, at least from the Dustin fight that we saw. He's going to drive forward and land those combos on you. I think that's going to really suck for Max Holloway in this fight because he goes backward. However, Korean Zombie was landing pretty good on him early on in that fight. I know the shots that Max Holloway was landing on Korean Zombie, he was wobbling him, but are we really going to say that's the same thing's going to happen to Justin Gaethje in this fight? I'm not too sure about that. I think Max Holloway is looking at certain moments in this fight. I think at a certain moment in this fight, Justin Gaethje will drive through on his combo. Whether he gets the foot behind Max Holloway's leg or not, I think Max Holloway gets dropped. I think it's going to be early on in this fight in the first or second round. Probably the second round, I think he gets dropped. Whether it's more off balance with like a trip that Gaethje, not like an intentional trip, like something Petr Yan would do, but more of he's going to drive on this combo and Max Holloway just moving backwards just gets caught on the leg of Justin Gaethje. But I think he goes down. I think his chin gets tested. I think he's going to be all busted up. He's going to be all bruised up. I think by the time Max Holloway will be looking at turning the tide and overwhelming Gaethje with volume, which he hasn't really been doing to anybody. Like, he throws a lot. However, it's just not the same volume that he had in the Kattar fight, of course. Like, it's just not the same thing here. He's going to try and keep the range. But again, Justin Gaethje, I haven't even talked about the leg kicks yet. I think Justin Gaethje is going to tear up the legs of Max Holloway too. And I think that movement's going to go down a lot more, which is what I'm saying. If Justin Gaethje invests the leg kicks as this fight goes on, it's going to kind of limit Max Holloway for the later rounds, which will definitely help him. I don't think Justin Gaethje grapples or wrestles because he does say that he does tire out from it. However, again, just following up with the combos, driving forward, where Max Holloway doesn't really have the best head movement. He'll circle out, but he just doesn't move his head. And guys like Korean Zombie and Arnold Allen at 145. Imagine that with 155 Justin Gaethje power. I think he's going to catch Max Holloway. I think he's going to drop him. Maybe, I don't know if Holloway's confidence will kind of go down because he's a very confident guy. He's a very good boxer. And honestly, this could go either way. Maybe Max Holloway just puts on a masterclass on Gaethje. He lands on Gaethje, hurts him, and the output's just too much, and Gaethje kind of just gets swallowed out there. Like, Max Holloway has a really great chin. It's not Dustin Poirier's chin. And honestly, if Justin Gaethje's going to win this fight, it's going to be by standing TKO if he gets a finish, or it's going to be by decision, in my opinion. I think he just beats the crap out of Max Holloway's leg, invests in that so it limits the movement of Max Holloway. And I think the fact that because of the limited movement, he can drive on those punches. And then on Max Holloway, as he's trying to circle out, trying to get away from Gaethje, I think the damage is just going to be a little bit too much, especially on the scoring criteria. Damage is the number one thing they're looking at. And we don't know what Max Holloway's power will definitely look like at 155. Like, he had that late short notice move up to 155 against Dustin. He landed some good shots on Dustin, but Dustin doesn't have the greatest chin. Like, he has a good chin, but it's not the greatest chin. He hurt Dustin at certain moments, but he's going to be well trained for 155, which is going to be interesting here. But I'm going to go with Justin Gaethje. I think he just does way too much damage, invests in the later rounds with the leg kicks, drives on his combinations going towards Max Holloway. I think he wins this fight 48-47, 49-46. I think we're looking at maybe a Max Holloway first and fifth round win here. It's pretty odd round wins there. If not, I think Justin Gaethje is just going to do a lot of damage to Max Holloway. And when he's looking at an Ilya Topuria fight at 145, I think we're going to be looking at a Max Holloway who's taking a lot of damage, and it'll definitely make it a lot more interesting. Because I'm going to be honest, if Max Holloway didn't take this fight, it was going straight to Ilya Topuria, he might be Ilya Topuria. But I think Justin Gaethje does way too much damage in this fight. Max Holloway is going to lose 48-47 decision. It's weird taking Justin Gaethje by decision. You think if it goes to a decision, it would go Max Holloway. But I'm going to go Justin Gaethje here. I think the damage is going to be too much. Max Holloway's face is going to be way too bruised up, and he's going to be bleeding all over the place. And he's just too hittable, and I think the output has kind of gone down a little bit. He's just been focused on movement, not trying to take as much damage. And the fact that Korean Zombie was able to land pretty good on him says quite a bit. Korean Zombie's like 36 years of age. Didn't look too great in his last couple of fights before then. So I'm going Justin Gaethje by decision, 48-47 decision. People saying Justin Gaethje's going to KO Max Holloway, I think that's kind of crazy. Maybe he gets the standing TKO. I can see that happening in like 4th or 5th round. But let's make this clear. Max Holloway isn't Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson's way too hittable. Max Holloway at least puts an effort into not trying to be hittable, not trying to just out-tough his way through fights. You can probably say that a while ago for Max Holloway, but he's just been a little bit smarter. But I think Justin Gaethje is going to land too well on Max Holloway, invest in the later rounds, limit the movement, drive on his punches, combinations, go forward. And I think he's going to land pretty well on Max Holloway. So 48-47 decision, not 49-46 for Justin Gaethje here. Up the card, we have Weili Zhang versus Yan Xiaonan. I'm going Weili Zhang. At the end of the day, going into this fight, Yan Xiaonan has really good power on the feet, has really good hands. She made it very close with Mackenzie Dern. And Mackenzie Dern has now... Let's look at this real quick. Mackenzie Dern has now lost to Jessica Andrade and Amanda Lemos, who are very decent on the feet. I would have thought Yan Xiaonan was a lot better on the feet than Jessica Andrade or Amanda Lemos. They have the power. I guess Amanda Lemos has a better ground game. However, the ground game was there for Mackenzie Dern. And I think Weili Zhang is just a much stronger athlete here. She got a lot of power in her hands. However, I just think she's going to out-wrestle and grapple Yan Xiaonan here. She's just way too strong. Her grappling is getting way better. She's 34, so she's a little bit older, but they're both 34. That's the thing. But I'm going to go with Zhang. I'll probably say by decision. I don't think she's going to KO Yan Xiaonan. Yan Xiaonan is pretty tough. I don't think she's going to submit Yan at all. Probably decision for Zhang. Just completely out-muscles her, out-controls her on the ground, and wins this one by decision. Probably 50-45. Maybe Yan Xiaonan lands a couple good shots on Zhang and makes it 49-46. However, I'm going to go Zhang by decision here, 50-45 for her. Just out-muscling Yan in this fight and just taking her down, controlling her on the ground, just being way too strong for her. Up the card, we have Alex Pereira versus Jamahal Hill. This one was a very tough fight because I was not sure on who to go with, because Jamahal Hill, very fast hands, and I think would probably have a lot of success against Alex Pereira if he wasn't coming off an Achilles injury, where we're kind of uncertain. I mean, this fight was made relatively quickly, it seemed like, or at least the main event was announced. They had a lot of stuff on the table, and I guess they went with this one. I wonder where his Achilles injury was kind of at this point. A year and 2 months off. It does... I think I looked it up. Like maybe 8 months at most is like the recovery for an Achilles injury, and then you get that time in the gym again. But an Achilles injury for an athlete is going to be a very tough ask for Jamahal Hill against Alex Pereira, who's a very good leg kicker. I think the Achilles, I want to say, is by the ankle, like between the ankle and the calf, and like on, I don't even know. It's like right above the ankle, like the ankle's here, and I think it's right there. I looked it up. I don't know. But Alex Pereira is going to be leg kicking him all day. He's been chewing up that leg. Alex Pereira is probably the best leg kicker in the game. I mean, he is between him and Izzy. Like Izzy's whole game is jab and leg kick and circle around at this point, and he completely out leg kicked Izzy, out calf kicked him for 2 fights in a row. I know he lost the second one, however, he's destroying his leg in that fight. And the weird thing is coming into this fight, I did say I streamed maybe like a week ago. I did say coming in this fight, mentally, like just looking at these two fighters, it's kind of a toss-up of, you see Alex Pereira with his new girlfriend. He's been on vacation. I think like 2 weeks ago he was on vacation leading up to this fight, which is pretty interesting. And then Jamahal Hill saying, what I did look up, maybe I may be wrong at some point, but he said that striking's not really, just the cliff notes, striking's not really like my only game, like I can wrestle is pretty much what I got out of it. I can wrestle if I need to. I'm not one-dimensional, which I think is just a bad mentality coming into this fight, because eventually with Alex Pereira, no matter who he's fought, and we can run through this real quick, Andres Michailidis, a wrestler, out-wrestled him on the ground. Bruno Silva wrestled him on the ground, took him down. He didn't get finished, but got beat up in that fight. Pereira did take a lot of damage in that fight. The only person really not taking down Alex Pereira in these fights was Sean Strickland and Israel Adesanya. Israel Adesanya beat him in that second fight. So Sean Strickland didn't take him down, beat him on the feet there. But Israel Adesanya, I know he didn't really take down Pereira. It was more of him shifting the weight and was able to get it, but just completely out-grappled. And Pereira was able to come back and get the win. Jan Blachowicz went and wrestled, and Pereira was still able to get the win. Jiri Prochazka came into that fight wrestling, and Alex Pereira was still able to get the win. So Jamahal Hill's thinking, I can go out there and just out-wrestle Alex Pereira. I don't think that's the case here. Pereira just hasn't been submitted. He's been dominated on the ground. He's a very top-heavy guy, so it's hard for him to like build himself up and get back to his feet. However, he gets there. Has a lot of power in his hands, and I think we're looking at a Jamahal Hill who's coming off of that Achilles injury, going to be looking super rusty there. He has very quick hands, so maybe the speed down the middle against Alex Pereira is just going to be too much for him, and we see Pereira just get flatlined. Like, that could definitely happen here. But I think Pereira's just going to chew up the legs of Jamahal Hill in this fight and make it very rough for Jamahal Hill. Jamahal Hill is going to be looking for takedowns, not going to be able to get the weight under him to do it. And I think if he does, we've seen Jamahal Hill go 5 rounds, so I'm not going to say that he's going to tire out or anything like that, but he always has like a noticeable stomach. I think it's pretty clear these days, but maybe he won't gas out in that fight. Like we saw that Thiago Santos fight, and he was gassing out pretty hard, but we didn't see him gas out against Glover Teixeira. I guess he didn't get taken down or anything like that, and we don't expect Alex Pereira to take down Jamahal Hill in this fight. So it's definitely an interesting matchup here. But I think Alex Pereira at range is going to leg kick Jamahal Hill, take away his legs. Jamahal Hill is going to be looking and coming on there rusty. Alex Pereira is going to be off his back foot, and I think he's going to land some nice shots down the middle. I think he ends up TKOing Jamahal Hill in the 3rd round is what I'm looking at here. And I think Jamahal Hill is going to be looking to take Alex Pereira down. Just not going to end up working. You're probably going to end up gassing out Jamahal Hill at the end of the day. So I'm going Alex Pereira 3rd round TKO for this one. Really big fight. I can't wait for this entire card. It's pretty much KO'd or be KO'd for this matchup. So it's definitely something to look at. Again, Alex Pereira, when he got KO'd against Israel Adesanya, that was at middleweight, and we know how much he was cutting. He was like 220, 225. When he was cutting to middleweight, he's cutting straight from like 210, 205 or something like that, straight to 185. And we knew that chin wasn't probably going to last very long. So I'm going with Alex Pereira here. I don't think he took some nice shots against Jiri Prochazka and was able to take him. So I think he can do the same thing against Jamahal Hill. Yeah, he can do the same thing as Jamahal Hill. 3rd round TKO for Alex Pereira. I think he's just going to chew up the leg of Jamal, chew the leg up of Hill, and just make it very rough for Jamahal Hill coming off a pretty brutal injury. So I'm going Alex Pereira here by TKO, 3rd round TKO. Not too much else to say on this fight. Let me know what you guys think about this entire card down below. Who are you guys looking most forward to? And let me know who you guys are having with your predictions. So I'll see you guys